welcome to another episode of the Blues Focus podcast, airing every week on YouTube, Spotify and Apple Music. I'm Kieran, your host for this episode. Joining me on this episode, I've got Elliot and Callum. Two results to talk about, and unfortunately, Elliot, I'm going to come to you again first this time round. Start with the more positive of the two, Preston on Saturday. Nice little result. You predicted a draw on the last episode, so take it you're pleased with what you saw.
Yeah, I think, what did I predict? 1-1, I think. So, yeah, it was a good result. It was a good performance. I quite liked the starting lineup, to be fair. Definitely think that's sort of more the starting lineup that we should be going with on a regular basis, shall I put it. So, yeah, I thought thanks to Etheridge, get the 3 points at the end. I think probably on another day could have quite easily been a draw. So yeah, I was really pleased with it.
Yeah, Etheridge showing the difference between what we had last year compared to this year, basically.
Yeah, definitely.
Cal, how about you? Happy with the result?
Yeah.
Managed to give some grief to your uni mates yet?
Yeah, a few of them. I mean, I had a feeling we'd win, obviously, because they're home record, but I was pleased at the start we made. Obviously, Riley McGree's come in, and he's probably the only game he's made much of an impression in, but he did play quite well, and I liked the little link-up he had with Jonathan Lecco, and I think Duke needs that support up front, like we saw when Chadham used to play up front with him. He's got Lecco. I think that's the sort of partnership we need to go with, like Elliot said. I did quite like the starting lineup, and we took it to them from the off. I know they came back into it with a brilliant strike, but yeah, no, it was a good result, and one I thought we would have capitalised on this week, but as we'll get on to.
Yeah, I mean, I want to steer clear away from that one as long as we can, so we can come back to that right at the end. But I mean, touching on Saturday, obviously, as Callum mentioned, McGree, one of the standout performers, but obviously Elliot said Etheridge with his save, but is that what you want to see more of, that starting 11, McGree in the middle starting, or how do you see it going? He's still experimenting, isn't he, with his strongest 11, really, I think.
Yeah, I think I don't think we've had the same side 2 consecutive games so far. So he's obviously chopping and changing it, trying to work out, his best sort of first team or starting team. I was surprised to see McGree come into the lineup, but with that performance, I was even more surprised to see that he didn't get a start last night. But obviously, we'll come on to that in a little while. But like Cal touched on, I think if Duke's going to play, or he's going to start the game, he's got to have someone next to him up front. Otherwise, it's just not going to happen. We're just going to be relying on set piece goals again. So yeah, it was good. Lecco looks lively. I think obviously he's sort of feeling his way back from injury. That long-term injury that he's had. But I would prefer to see Lecco start and come off on the 60th minute rather than come on in the 60th minute, if that makes sense. I'd rather see him get an hour under his belt. Last night we could have, potentially had a couple of goals, or got a couple of goals up, and would have made life a lot easier for us rather than chasing the game in the last 10 minutes and then losing it.
Yeah, I mean, Duke's always been better with a strike partner, hasn't he? Obviously, sometimes he doesn't get much of the plaudits that maybe he deserves, as much of the plaudits he deserves. But obviously, Che Adams stole the limelight. He was obviously the star man up there, but obviously played off Duke again before lockdown last season. Duke and Hogan worked wonders. Again, Hogan getting the majority of the goals, so obviously he's happy to play that target man, and he's also happy to let the strike partner do the last little bit and take the credit, really. But I don't see Lecco as I know he can play there, but I don't see Lecco as a striker playing off Duke. I think that's where Hogan comes in. But he seems reluctant to go with two up top. But Cal, I mean, what do you want to see, really? Lecco up top, Lecco on the wing, where's he best? And also, as Elliot says, starting or coming off the bench?
It's a tough one because you could have Lecco out wide, which is, left wing is probably where his main position is. But I feel like off the shoulder of Duke as a two showed it worked slightly against Preston, and I think I'd put him there. I feel like you shouldn't start both Hogan and Duke. Have one of those on the bench. But Duke's the target man, so you got to start Duke. Yeah, Lecco up front, I'd say. Or it depends, because 4-2-3-1 or just one up front in general is Karanka's preferred. But yeah, you can hold it up and bring other players into play. But I think it needs to be Lecco. You can see the pace he's got and the way he moves with the ball. He runs at the defenders. I think I prefer Bella coming off the bench though, so I'm not too sure. But in terms of what Elliot said about chopping and changing the positions, it's good that we've got enough players who can come in, difference in mids and stuff like that. But you don't change a winning team. Clearly, that's something we didn't do too well after the Preston game.
Yeah, you never change a winning team, and that's gone and bit us on the arse, hasn't it, really? But another thing about the Preston game, quickly just to touch on, which I've seen debated on Twitter a bit over the past few days. We talk about how well he started his career for us. Ivan Sanchez played in the middle on Saturday against Preston. Not as effective as he's been on the right wing, but can play there all the same as he did for Elche last season in second division in Spain. But again, just your views. He seems to be a more out-and-out winger, doesn't he? Really, running defenders with pace. Do you agree, Elliot?
Yeah, to a degree, I think. I'm not an expert on the player. I haven't seen a lot of his career up until now. So, I mean, I know he's heavily left-footed, hasn't got a right foot at all. So he's obviously a player that likes to cut inside. He likes to dribble, obviously. He likes to retain the ball. Likes to put his foot in, which is really good. So he's definitely more useful wide in front of our right back, helping out there. But I think in terms like tactically, I think I would probably prefer to see him more inside than wide. And that's why I think if we're going to play five at the back, he needs to tuck in closer to Djukovic, sort of more central. Because otherwise, like we were saying, Djukovic is just isolated up front. He's not. He can hold the ball up, but if people are not going to get up quick enough, we're not going to utilise him. We're not going to counter attack on teams. And unfortunately, like last night, didn't see so much of it against Preston, because obviously we had Lecco up there, and with his pace, they were a bit scared, wary of that. But last night, teams were just happy to sit on the halfway line and just press on us, and that's the problem. And we know, if we're not going to get the support to him, so that's why I think it's a difficult one. Sanchez, I know he didn't have a particularly good game last night, but I thought he was pretty decent against Preston.
Did anyone have a decent game last night? Is the question, really. Obviously, so we'll move on to that shortly. I know you're dying to say some things, but Callum, Sanchez on the right wing or in the middle for you?
On the wing, but it does slightly frustrate me when he cuts in all the time. I know he's heavily left-footed, but you've got Duke up front for a reason. Most of the goals in his career have probably come from his head, so you've got to be crossing it. So I'd possibly play Bella on the right, Sanchez on the left, get Sanchez whipping balls into Duke. But yeah, he clearly likes to cut in, and when he scores a rocket, we'll thank him for cutting in. But I don't know, his pace is good and he does sort of light up the attack, but it does slightly frustrate me when he decides to cut in all the time, because a couple of times against Preston when he was cutting in, he just lost the ball. and he does try to win it back, but sometimes I think you just need to do what a winger should be doing and just crossing it in, and it could value Duke a bit more.
I mean, the one thing he does do on that right wing that we've lacked for a long while now is he draws the fouls, doesn't he? You know, you see he got the free kick for who was it against? I can't even remember who he was against now. He might have gone blank, but he won a free kick, didn't he? And we went on and scored from that free kick about a week or so ago. Was it QPR or Huddersfield? No, that's the one. Huddersfield. Yeah. So, you know, whereas in the middle maybe he doesn't have that impact as such of drawing, because he's getting the ball and moving it on rather than being able to give enough a license to run at his defender, take on a man a bit more. He's everything that I thought Jota would be when we signed Jota, basically. You know what he's going to do. He's going to go in on his left foot, isn't he? But it's the defence being unable to stop him that gives us these opportunities, and we are a really strong team, aren't we? So I think that's where we benefit with him being on the right, personally. But I think Karanka's going to keep chopping and changing it for the next few weeks at least, and we'll see where he ends up. He's a guaranteed starter in either position, isn't he? So, but then moving on to last night, Callum, I'm going to get your thoughts first, because as we already know, Elliot needs the rest of the show to vent his frustrations after that. So, your thoughts on a dismal performance last night, to say the least.
I said it in the last podcast. I said the one game out of the next three, Preston, Wycombe and Bournemouth, the one game you'd think we'd win, especially at home, would be Wycombe. But I said it was probably the one that's most likely to be a banana skin, and it was. I thought, wow. It's typical, isn't it, really? We win two on the bounce. You know, we're looking up in the table. Decent performances. We're starting to see why Karanka is as well thought of as he is. And I'm not exactly blaming him, but to change the team and to lose at home to Wycombe, a team that's one of the favourites to go down, shouldn't be out. It's just very lacklustre, and it was just disappointing, really. I mean, Wycombe were all over us, so fair play to them for winning their second game on the bounce, but from our point of view, it wasn't a brilliant watch, no.
Elliot, talk to us.
I mean, like Cal touched on, it was definitely a banana skin. Like we talked about it last week. I said it as well. I thought Wycombe was going to be our most difficult game out of the three. I'd watched them in their previous two games, and they deservedly should have beaten Watford at home. And then obviously they got their first win on the weekend. And they look an accomplished side, especially when they get on the ball. They've got a good vibe around the club as well, with a good manager. Obviously the winning mentality there, come up from last season. So anyone that let's not get too down about it. We were playing a good side last night. They're in a false position as far as I'm concerned. They should be in mid-table. So yeah, it was disappointing, but I expected it. Maybe not the defeat, but let's just start. I want to start with the starting lineup, and like we were saying, coming off the back of a good performance against Preston and a win, you would expect those players potentially, especially McGree and Lecco, who and Cogley at right back, who I thought had a good game. You'd expect that particularly those three players, having had a good game, picked up the 3 points for us at the weekend, would have been rewarded with starting the game last night. It's disappointing when players perform well and then they're rewarded with a place on the bench for the next game. I'm not a fan of that.
It's easy to say, and like every manager's doing the same, aren't they? At the minute they're blaming congested fixture lists. Obviously, games are coming thick and fast. They always do in the Championship. But the likes of McGree, His first start of the club was Saturday against Preston. Cogley, first start of the season, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Who else was there? Lecco is still trying to get minutes into his legs. But McGree and Cogley especially, 2 good games on Saturday against Preston. They're not suffering from early season fatigue because they've not been in the starting 11. They've been bit part players. In fact, has Cogley even played up until he played against Preston? Did he even come on as a sub or anything? I don't think he had it.
No.
And McGree, like I say, his first start, it's not like he's played 90 minutes for 5 weeks consecutively. So there was no reason for them to be dropped. It is a tactical decision, but it can't help them players when they're then, like you say, rewarded with a place on the bench for playing well. What gives them the motive to say, I'll kick on from here then? Is it? I'm not blaming Karanka, like I've seen on social media and people with all this Karanka hate and all that sort of stuff. Look, I don't know how many times we need to sit here and say it's a work in progress. I'm quite frankly, I'm bored of seeing people having to say it, to be honest. But he's not immune to criticism over absurd decisions like that, as far as I'm concerned. McGree should have been in that lineup last night. No questions asked. Lecco, who was probably one of the brightest sparks against Preston. Again, why is he not in there against Wycombe? He's what you needed against someone like Wycombe. Pace. Because Bella his pace is a myth. He's not that quick, let's be honest. He's skillful. He's not rapid. He's not frightening defenders with running in behind. He likes to come short. He wants to get the ball. He wants to take a man on. Lecco is pure pace in behind. And when you've got a team sitting and pressing you up like Wycombe did, you need that spark in behind. Duke's not doing it. Bella's not doing it. Sanchez wasn't doing it. He was in the middle. Gardner, Sunjic, well, they're sitting. They're not going to do it. Who was going to do that? What was his out ball? Because that's what was missing last night. There wasn't one. So, God knows what happens against Bournemouth. If we play like that, we've got another repeat of the last time Bournemouth played us at our place in the league game. Because we were shocking last night. Absolutely shocking. Anyway, rant over. Yeah, we'll talk about Bournemouth a bit because I'm sick of talking about the Wycombe game already. Big, interesting game at the weekend coming up. Obviously, we'll see how we respond to a defeat to Wycombe, but B, first real challenge at home by a relegated side. Some Premier League players in their starting 11. Carl, how do you see it panning out? What are your thoughts for the game coming up?
I'm not confident, but also I just go back to this word of typical, and I just feel like we're not going to win, but we're just going to get a point. And I just feel like we've won 2 on the bounce, lost to Wycombe. You'd think we're going to go and lose to Bournemouth, but I just think, well, we might lose, and fair enough if we do, because Bournemouth are looking as one of the promotion favourites, but I just think we're going to get a draw. And again, it's a work in progress. Steady the ship after a loss, get a point, get a win in your next game. I can just see us shutting up shop, holding it potentially. Obviously, Bournemouth's attack can open us up, but we saw in the Norwich game, we could have been 3-0 down at half time, and last season we would have been, but it wasn't 1-0 until like the 75th minute. So I think we can get a draw. I don't think we'll get battered, and it all depends on what team Karanka plays. It really does. And going back to the previous point of Bella and Lecco, we saw in the Preston game when Lecco was playing and starting, when Bella came on, he made a bit of an impact. and obviously then our second goal came. I feel like, and I said it before, Bella's better coming off the bench. Leko's better starting, so I would like to see Leko starting on Saturday.
Moving on to you, Elliot. Do you think the Bournemouth game is going to be a case of Karanka says, right, okay, obviously, Bournemouth are going to be a much better starting 11, realistically. Is he going to just shut up shop, so to speak, like early season performances, play for a set piece, try and nick it that way, or is he going to try and go through? I say go through it a bit, but the way we played against Preston and the victory before that against Huddersfield, is he going to be a bit more expansive and actually let them have a bit of creative freedom? Do you think?
Oh, who knows? I think what we're seeing at the moment is Karanka, like we saw last night. I've still got that in my mind. Like, once we're a goal up, he sees that as his aim to preserve a lead. The points are in the bag to lose, kind of thing. That's his philosophy. It seems to be, and it's obviously it's rubbing a lot of people up the wrong way at the moment. Obviously, it doesn't. The 3 points is the most important thing. It doesn't matter how you get it. If you get it with 10% possession, who cares? If you get it with one shot on goal and you win 1-0, who cares? As long as you're getting the 3 points. But you can't go through 46 games of a season playing like that. You've got to, at some point, you've got to put teams under pressure. You've got to try and go for the throat, and that's what we should have done last night. And I think, would we have seen a different game last night if we were 1-0 down with 30 minutes to go, bringing on Leko and McGree? Would we have gone into more of an attacking, mode? But yeah, going on to the Bournemouth game, it'll be exactly the same. It'll be, like you said, keep it tight. Win free kicks in and around the area. Make the most of corners and set pieces. And then again, once we go a goal up, stay a goal up. But unfortunately, his method is not, once we go a goal up, let's try and go 2 goals up and 3 goals up. It is, when we go a goal up, let's just stay a goal up. So it's going to be difficult. Look at the players they've got: Brooks, King, Solanke. I know Steve Cook got sent off the other night, so they might have to reshuffle a little bit at the back, which is good. But we're going to be without Sunjic, which is going to be a big miss for us in midfield. So I don't know who's going to put there. Probably put San Jose in his position, and he might revert back to 4 at the back. So, like you said, he might go for a little bit more in this game. Like Cal said, I can't see us losing it, but I can't see us winning it. So I think it'll be a draw.
I mean, they're starting 11 against Wednesday on Tuesday. So in there you had Asmir Begovic, Steve Cook, Chris Mepham, Lerma, Gosling, Diego Rico, King, Brooks, Solanke come off the bench, Lewis Cook, Stanislas on the bench, that Rodrigo Riquelme on there, and then a couple of, Lloyd Kelly at centre back. I'm pretty sure he was a big money signing from Bristol City. Was it last summer they got him? So Premier League players all through that 11. Maybe Karanka will see. Well, obviously, you'd like to think he sees that as a challenge. And look, it's a case of, I know he keeps saying, and we all have to keep saying it, it's game by game. We're not realistically saying we're going up this season, but it'd be interesting to see how he pits us against a real promotion contender. And it's our chance to really show what we are capable of this season, because we're still a unknown quantity, so to speak, aren't we, really? We picked up a couple of decent results, but then we've kind of thrown away some games where we really shouldn't have been losing, or Rotherham, we shouldn't have drawn that game at home. So we realistically, we could be a lot better off than we actually are. So, well, yeah, we're Blues, aren't we? So it's never going to happen. But realistically, you'd like to think we'd be 5 points better off if we didn't drop points into Wycombe and Rotherham.
I'm not sure. I think we are where we are. I think we've been fortunate in a few games. The Huddersfield game, for example, we were lucky. We were lucky not to lose that game. Huddersfield, when they got the equaliser, they were running to get the ball. They wanted a second goal. They weren't content with a 1-1. If that was us, we'd probably be, celebrating it. So it's a different mentality. And we were fortunate. The way it just come off the bar straight onto Duke's foot, and I've never seen Duke put a volley in from the edge of the box on his left foot. We won't see that again. So
usually he falls over at that point, doesn't he? He takes out his standing leg.
Exactly. So, and there's been other games we've been fortunate in. I would say we were fortunate in the Rotherham game. We put them under pressure, but we were 1-0 down with 2 minutes to go. We were fortunate to get the penalty at the end. I'm thinking of other games, Swansea away, Etheridge's had to pull out a point-blank save from like 2 minutes from the end to preserve a point. Could have easily lost that. So, you know what? We are where we are. I don't think we're better than what we are. I think if we finish where we are right now, 14th, that would be about right.
Better than last season.
Yeah, absolutely. Right.
Is it interesting you mentioned Etheridge again against Swansea, pulling a save out of the bag to save us a point. Preston, he kept us all 3 points. Even last night, I know, we ended up going on to lose it, but he made a couple of saves on chances where you'd think it's easier for Wycombe to really put it in the net than give him a chance to save it. So, is he starting to show the quality that we knew he was lacking realistically over the past couple of years? Do you think that's about right? It just goes to show what a steal he actually was in the window.
Yeah, massively. I think when he played for Cardiff in the Premier, in my opinion, and I think he might have actually been their player of the season.
Yeah.
Go as far as saying he's the best keeper in the league, but he's definitely up there. I mean, obviously Elliot talks about us being quite fortunate in games. We've been fortunate for him in goal. I mean, a game we did play very well in against Preston, obviously. We won, but could have easily drawn it. That effort from Barkhausen was obviously saved by Etheridge. So he's definitely the sort of goalkeeper we need in there. And obviously, he definitely commands that back four, I think, along with George Friend. So no, he was definitely a steal.
Would you go as far as to say it's between him and Sanchez for who was the signing of the season at the start for us?
So far, yeah. I'd give it to Etheridge. Just to be fair, well, I would have put Friend in there because the know-how he's got going forward and at the back does help. It's kind of like we've got two captains in there with him and Dean, but no, I mean, it probably is between those two, and I'd just about give it to Etheridge because some of the saves he's made have been incredible, to be fair.
I take it you're in agreement with that, Elliot?
Yeah, spot on. Etheridge is our best signing so far, of the season. Like I say, he's probably saved us about 4 points so far this season, probably 5. We could have been looking at a smaller points haul so far if it wasn't for some of his saves. And then, like Cal touched on, Friend, his experience has been absolutely invaluable at the back for us so far. And he was definitely a miss last night. And obviously we're still to see it. He's definitely coming along, but San Jose looks a real steal. He needs obviously help around him, but he looks a really accomplished player. Obviously, it's not something that I'm surprised by. Someone that's done has amassed 300 appearances for Athletic Bilbao in La Liga and played in Europa League, Champions League, etc. So yeah, so those are, like I say, we said it weeks ago, didn't we? If we had a proper striker, we got a proper striker in that can get 20 goals this season. We could be looking at a really good season, but just didn't materialise, did it?
I mean, the thing was with a striker is we never really actually heard a name really solidly linked to us, did we?
No.
Season's gone by when we've needed a striker. I mean, we've known for how long we needed a striker for now, about 5 years. We've needed a real goal scorer. I know Che had that good season for us, but even just before that, as that season started, we were saying we needed a goal scorer. We didn't think Che would do what he done. But at least in them windows, you always had one name that was solidly linked to us throughout. Or, you know, you was always getting linked to names. Otherwise, Dwight Gale came up on loan a couple of years ago, and, you know, the likes of. And this season, there wasn't any of that. It makes me wonder, was we even really in for a striker other than Hogan, realistically? Obviously, Cal's still hoping that Alexander Passo comes in on a free contract. So, yeah.
Not going to happen.
Aren't we all?
Yeah. Welcome back to Earth, Cal. Not going to happen. But, I mean, again, we keep going in circles with the whole striker debate, don't we? And we're stuck with what we've got until January at least. So let's just see where the season takes us. But one thing else to talk about before we go anyway is what's just been released on the Blues Focus YouTube was mine and Callum's Q&A with Marlon King, which was very interesting. Callum, how did you find it? You was in your element, weren't you?
Yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it. He was definitely, it was good to talk to, and I did think he was going to be quite open, and he was, and he gave some good answers, and obviously he talked about his time at Blues, and apart from the times my internet went, it was a good interview, yeah.
Yeah, he's an interesting character. I don't really know what to expect to him when he came in at first. I didn't know if, how he would be quite cagey with his answers, but the conversation just, the answers just flowed, and he was quite broad in the information he gave us. He gave us a good insight into what it was like to work for the likes of, Houghton and obviously Clark after that as well. Really how it came about with him having his contract terminated at the end of that season with Lee Clark. So no, you need to give that a watch, by the way.
Yeah, I'm on it.
Staying that on air so you can't weasel out of it.
Straight after this.
We're trying to line up some others, I suppose. So we'll see what happens. I'm sure we can get you asking some more questions sooner or later. Don't worry.
I look forward to
it. I mean, that's about all we've got time for on this episode, anyway. Thanks for joining me on this. Thanks for watching at home. Subscribe to the YouTube channel as always. Get your questions on social media at Blues Focus Pod. And until next time, thanks for watching.